So I shot a video for Shooting Star IPA. It didn't see the light of day because I didn't like the recording, and I didn't end up doing all that great with the beer because I forgot an important part. So that important part would happen to be the dry malt. So things got a little mucked up. So I lined everything up again today. First step always is to clean, and that's what I did with the brew kettle and the primary bucket. So I keep everything in there that I need to cool. I have the wort chiller in there and the spoon to help mix everything. So I have everything lined up. I even have the yeast going because it takes 3 hours for that to get going. And I'm going to need, well, at least that much time to brew here. Okie dokie here. So we got everything we need outside of the yeast here. I'm using the wheat dry malt extract, which is different than what I would have used for the IPA anyway. I only a little bit of the white wheat malt and some Zaz hops, which are typically more used for a Pilsner, and I believe I've used them for my red ale. So yeah, it's not typically a Hefeweisen type thing since it's not quite a German hop. The other thing that I'm using here is the Bavarian wheat blend yeast. It's already starting to puff up, so that's kind of nice, and we're gonna get moving when the water gets up to temperature. Okay, so I just put in the specialty grain, which was the white wheat, and I'm gonna let that soak now for an hour at 152. It seems like it's warm enough out right now that I'm not gonna really need too much heat on this thing. Which means it's going to be extra tricky to cool it off later tonight, which, well, is just going to be a blast as far as I'm concerned. Brewdog Cayenne is helping out as he normally does. He loves to get in the way, eat grass, and even lick the malt bags once the malt is done soaking. So yeah, he gets a little bit of present later. This is Brewdog Kia. She is the older of the two, and she's much better at staying out of the way, but she loves to lick the specialty grain bag just as much as Mr. Cayenne Pepper. So, yep, those are the Brewdogs, and yeah, well, you got to see Kia playing in the grass. So I'm going to record this part before I actually do it and before I forget again. Getting ready, the beer is almost at the nice boiling temperature of 212 degrees. I usually have to go up to about 213 or 216, honestly, to get it to truly into rolling boil. But then, after that, I will add the dry malt extract. And after I get things under control and make sure it's sitting at 216 on the regular, I will go ahead and start my 60-minute countdown. And the first and only batch of hops will go in 10 minutes in, because it's not a very hoppy beer and it's not very hoppy hops. You just kind of want a little nice little backbone there to Hefeweizen. No, go after it, Cayenne. Well, this is always a fun part of the brewing evening. They do love to lick the malt. The hops are bad for dogs, so they don't get to try the hops. But I do give them a chance to take a little lick at the malt. So brewing got to be a little bit complicated with a little tiny rainstorm. So I had to, well, change because I got soaking wet trying to keep the boil going, because of course it hit with 10 minutes left to go. Thankfully I got that done, and I got the cool down done with the wort chiller before the next storm that's, well, just hitting right now. So good news, it's cooled down to a nice 68 degrees. I'm ready to move it from the brew kettle to the primary, and after that I will measure the gravity so that I know what it is before I put in the yeast. So more good news is that the gravity is what I expected it to be, which was 1.050. So I'm hoping that this beer comes in at around 5.1% alcohol. It's not a very alcoholic one, but it's a nice summery beer that I'm ready to drink hopefully in about a month or so.